Okay, so in front of us is an RTX 3090 Kingpin. If you don't know, this card is used for liquid nitrogen overclocking by the likes of Buildzoid, Lumi, and in this particular card's case, Flagship Labs. I will link them in the description. Anyways, as you can also imagine, this card is very, very rare. For example, the one that you're looking at right now has actually been in for repair before. So the first time I got it, I fixed it, didn't make a video, and now it has to come in again because liquid nitrogen overclocking is, as you can imagine, very difficult and very stressful for these PCBs, even when they are as overbuilt as this. Anyways, like all the broken cards we get, we want to first start by checking for short on the base voltage rails. So I have my multimeter in continuity mode. If I probe something connected to ground, like ground itself, my multimeter beeps. To start with, we're going to check 12 volts and 3.3 volts at the PCI Express slot. To do this, we can get away with checking the first 3 pins at the PCI Express slot, as this is 12 volts. And as you can see, we're perfectly good. And to check 3.3 volts, we start at this notch and we go 4 pins left. And we're perfectly good. Okay, now we want to check 12 volts at the external 8 pins, so there are 3 in this case. So checking the top one, perfectly fine. Checking the middle one, again, perfectly fine. Checking the bottom one, again, perfectly fine. Now we want to go ahead and check the voltage rails generated by the card itself. So in regular resistance mode, we want to first start by checking 5 volts. To check 5 volts, there are 2 5-volt rails for this particular card. The first 5-volt rail we're going to check is this one over here. And as you can see, we have 3 mega ohms, which is very, very high, or 2.9 I should say, which is perfectly fine as well. Then we can check this 5-volt rail over here, 2.4 mega ohms, again, very, very high. And now we want to check 1.8 volts, which can be found over here. Okay, so as you can see, we have 1.5 kilo ohms. I had to switch my multimeter to manual ranging, but as you can see, we do have a reading. Okay, now let's check the PEX rail over here. This should be about 5-6 ohms, roughly speaking. So 5.7, perfectly fine. And now we want to check the memory phase, which can be found very conveniently on these 4 inductors, here, 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 and here. You can measure any one of them. And as you can see, we have 0.3 ohms, 0.2. So basically, it's a short, unfortunately. So I should note that typically speaking, when you have a short on the memory phase, this is usually fatal. So it's usually due to a dead power stage. And when the power stage dies, it almost always kills both the core and all the memory, which would be kind of tragic in this case, given how expensive this card is, and also how rare it is, and also the fact that I fixed this before, and I'd hate to have to tell the owner that it's dead forever. However, in this case, it isn't dead forever, or at least I don't think it is. As far as I can tell, this is a dead power stage, but the manner in which it's died has been rather convenient for the owner. So this died probably under LN2, which is why it's actually going to be a fixable card, despite the dead power stage. So which power stage is dead? So for this job, we can actually get away with just using a thermal camera, and under a thermal camera, we can very clearly see that we have a shorted component, which is that power stage, so the middle left or bottom left memory power stage. So let's go ahead and replace it, and then we should be good. Okay, as you saw, I replaced the power stage over here. I'm not sure how visible it is on camera, but it has been replaced. If we now check the memory rail in resistance mode, you notice that we have 3 ohms and rising. So yes, that power stage was the source of our shorts, as also confirmed by a thermal camera. I should note that we're not quite done. Generally speaking, when you replace a power stage, you almost always want to confirm that it is actually functional and running after you put on the replacement. So sometimes what happens is when these power stages die, they will kill an external component so that whatever replacement you use never actually tries to function or power on, and instead it just sits there doing nothing. So anyways, to confirm that our replacement power stage works, we're going to be using an oscilloscope, this one over here, and you should be able to see the wavelength on screen. So we're going to be checking the first pad after the power stage at the inductor. But before we do that, we're going to first confirm what the proper wavelength is supposed to look like on a working power stage. So you should see it pop up in a moment. Okay, like I was saying, checking a working power stage just as a reference. You can see we have a peak to peak of about 2.1, 2.2 volts, and a switching frequency of about 400 kilohertz. If we now go to the power stage we just replaced, again, we have about 400 kilohertz switching frequency and a peak to peak of about 2.1, 2.2 volts. Checking the other phases in memory, that's good. And checking this one up top, yep, that's good. Okay, so we're done. I should note that I'll confirm that the V-core and uncore power stages are all good as well, but I'll do that off camera, and I suspect that there's nothing wrong with them. Anyways, let's go straight to the testing. Okay, as you can see, the 3090 Kingpin now works. All I had was a dead power stage, and replacing it was enough to get the card to become fully functional. Twice now that I fixed this card. This is actually a Kingpin as well, but this is a 1080 Ti. I've had quite a few of these in for repair, believe it or not. Unfortunately, none of them were video worthy, and I suspect this one is not video worthy either. If you have a broken electronic that you wish to send in for repair, that is a graphics card or even something else, I have metal detector remote repair videos and laptop repair videos and console repair videos now. Like I said, if you have something you want to send in for repair, I have a website, www.techcemetery.com. It's linked in the description just in case you don't know how to spell cemetery, which is a lot of my customers, believe it or not. But otherwise, I hope you got something from the video, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. Okay, so as you saw, the RTX 3090 required a power stage and nothing more. I should note that the repair for this video is done. There will be no further repair work or any soldering or anything like that. From this point onwards, it will just be me talking about my channel, me, my business, and Discord. So if you only came for repair, the video is done. I apologize if you feel like you were misled by the length of the video. Anyways, as many of my long-term viewers know, YouTube is a graveyard of dead graphics card repair channels. The attrition rate for a graphics card repair channel and also a graphics card repair business is very, very high. Most channels, they last probably not even 6 months, and they get to about not even 10 videos, and then they decide that graphics card repair is not for them. My channel isn't going to be any different. I should be done fixing graphics cards and making videos about them, for other people at least, by the time the RTX 5000 series comes out. I of course can't know for sure because I'll be predicting the future, but if I play my cards right, and I think I have played them right, I should be out, like I said, by the time the RTX 5000 series releases. So if you don't know, I started fixing graphics cards as a graduate student at a math department. I started my graduate program in January of 2020, and when COVID hit a couple months later and there were the global lockdowns, I kind of realized that, like a lot of people, that you didn't really have job security if you worked for, let's say, a company or some corporation or some other employer. The only job security you could ever reasonably have is if you figure out a way of working for yourself. And so for me personally, that was fixing electronics. I figured that if I got good enough, I could buy broken electronics, fix them, sell them as working on like eBay or used or whatever, and that I'd be able to live anywhere, work as much or as little as I need to, and that I'd always have a job if I wanted one. So like anyone with a goal, I started using my $1,700 per month graduate stipend, and I started using it to buy broken graphics cards off of eBay. I started fixing them with no prior repair experience in electronics whatsoever, no formal education in electronics, with nobody to ask for help, with no data sheets, no schematics. I was just buying them broken, working on them blind, and well, now I'm here. Anyways, like I said earlier, I always knew that this would be a temporary thing. I never intended to make a career out of fixing electronics, and I still don't. So the difference is that back then, I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my education. You know, I have a math degree, bachelor's by the way, and I'm a couple classes away from master's. Like I said, back then, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my degree or my education. Today, however, I know exactly what I want. What job I want, what field to work in, and it does require a math degree as well as quite a few exams that need to be passed. And because of this, my business and my channel are, in a sense, second place now. You know, they're not the priority because they are temporary. So I will still be fixing graphics cards for some time, maybe a year, maybe even 2 years, hopefully not too long. Like I said, I intend to get out, and hopefully by the time the RTX 5000 series releases, I will be done with fixing electronics for other people. But like I said, my business is temporary, but I won't be out straight away. Also, I want to add that this is actually not due to the crash in GPU prices. So even with the downturn, I'm still making a profit every month off of my business. Like, this is not a business decision, this is a personal one. Like I said, I never wanted to fix graphics cards forever. So because I don't intend to have my business live forever or my channel, I intend to bring back newcomer advice. So if you don't know, newcomer advice was a section of my Discord server dedicated to giving newcomers advice on how to fix their electronic. In general, this was a bit of a shit show, if I'm being honest. A lot of people who came in, they didn't even know how to use a multimeter, but they wanted expert advice. And essentially, what a lot of people figured out was that they just wanted a free repair without actually putting any effort. You know, newcomer advice was supposed to be a place where you could learn how to fix graphics cards. And honestly, if you're not willing to put money into your hobby to learn, it's probably not for you. But anyways, like I said, that was its intention. its actual implementation was a bit of a disaster, and it was generally a net waste of me and my moderator's time. But despite this, oddly enough, the Discord server, my Discord server, seems to want it back. And not only do they want it back, they voted to bring it back by 80% votes in favor of bringing it back and reviving it. So because of this, newcomer advice is back. By the time you watch this video, there should be this section should be completely fleshed out. I haven't decided, and also it'll be updated. So before, if you were a newcomer, you only had to follow the rules given in the welcome rule section. To simplify things and make it easy for me and my moderators, there will only be 2 rules from now on. The first rule is don't get banned, and the second rule is stay unbanned. If you follow those 2 rules, you'll always have a place in the server. Anyways, that more or less concludes the video. I hope you learned something, and hopefully I will see you in the... Oh, hey look, and we have our first post. What the f...